Spinning. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Lara. I'm the social media coordinator for Dr. Kim. I've been married a little over a year and a half, and I've been a part of the Awesome Marriage family since January. And good morning, Dr. Kim. How are you?
I'm good today. How are you doing? Yeah, I can't believe you guys have been married a year and a half now. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just flown by. And I know everyone obviously knows who you are, but would you mind just introducing yourself really quickly?
Sure. Well, I'm the president of Awesome Marriage. Also, I'm a Christian counselor, and I've been doing that for like over 35 years. I've been married to Nancy for 51 years, have 2 adult married kids, 5 grandkids, and love helping people with marriage. I mean, that's what I'm passionate about.
Yes, we love that so much. So how was your Easter?
It was really good. It was fun. It was a lot of good family time and all that kind of stuff. So I love all that.
Did you hear anything at church that stuck out to you?
It was interesting. Our pastor did go to Life Church, and so he did an interesting thing. It was a little different take. He's talking a new series, and he talked about shame and healing from shame, and the whole thing about when we feel guilty, we say we did something bad, and when we feel shame, we say we are bad. And just he kind of took to the point of what Jesus did for us, and that really we can focus on what Jesus did, who he says we are, and there's no shame in that. And it's a way, basically, it's how to overcome that. And I thought it was a really healing service, which really goes along well with Easter, I think.
No, definitely. I think that's really great. So I know that you guys were doing an Easter egg hunt. Did anybody win?
Yeah, Eli, the next youngest one. Eli, yeah, and it was so fun watching him win because he, being the youngest for so long, he would just not get very many, but he got the most eggs with money in it. He got more eggs than anybody, and he was just, it was like, this is my year. I'm doing it.
I'm winning this year. I'm taking it.
And then I did the older grandkids, made them go on a treasure hunt, and I had them running all over our neighborhood. It was so much fun. I had to put one clue as far away as I could get it to the clubhouse, and then one back here, and so they have to go back and forth. And then they ended up getting an egg with each one of them got an egg with some stuff in it. So it was good. It's fun.
It's really cool. Yeah, I like that.
It's fun doing that.
Well, don't forget to check out the Awesome Marriage podcast this week. You can find it on the Awesome Marriage website by visiting awesomemarriage.com and click on the Awesome Marriage podcast tab. A new episode drops every Tuesday. And on the last Tuesday of every month, we have a special guest. So let's try to tune in for that. This week on the Awesome Marriage podcast, you and Christina discuss simple ways to be nicer to your spouse. Can you just give us a few tips on that and just how can we be nice to our spouse?
Yeah, I think the whole idea that because I think sometimes we're not very nice to our spouse. We kind of take it for granted, or we take I don't know, we hold it in all day and we're nice to people we don't want to be nice to, and we come home and our spouse just goes, we just kind of throw up on them. So, I think one of the things I love is asking Nancy each day, how can I help her? Is there something I can do to help her? And so that gives her an opportunity to say, well, yeah, you could do this, or no, thank you for asking, and something like that. I think that's really good. I think complimenting your spouse every day is really important. And I think for both guys and women, but I don't think a woman ever gets tired of hearing you're beautiful. Right?
Oh, no.
I mean,
I don't think so.
Just never. Or you look great.
Every day, and I would never get tired of it.
Yeah, I love them. I love what you're wearing. You look great in that color. Yeah. All those kind of things are really good. And then I think saying I love you to each other every day, face to face. A lot of times, Nancy, I'll do it in passing, or when I leave to go to work, I usually yell I love you, because she doesn't stand by the door when I leave anymore. She did the first year, but that was it. And but really, when you look in each other's eyes and say, I love you. So I think it has more of a connection than it does otherwise. Yeah. And then some things not to do, just think about what you say before you say it. So many times I think we've all had the experience, something comes out of our mouth and we think, why in the world did I say that? And so just taking the time to think about that. One of the things I think too, people get in the habit of is putting their spouse down, and it may not be face to face with their spouse, but it may be two friends or they're with a group having lunch or something. And I just think that gets some things going in your mind you don't want to do. You want to frame your spouse in the positive ways. And so I don't think that's good. And then I think the thing we all deal with is selfishness. And I think the whole idea that we talk about in Awesome Marriage of putting God first and our spouse second really works. It kind of helps us get out of putting ourselves first above our spouse and above God, which we all have a tendency to do at times.
Oh yeah, I think those are all very valuable tips. I know when I'm having a rough day, I can come in and without even meaning to just say something very hurtful. And I try to catch myself, but sometimes I've had a bad day. I don't realize I'm doing it. And so those are all great tips to think about before I'm doing it.
Yeah, because I mean, you feel safe with boom. We feel safe with our spouse,
Yes.
and yet sometimes we say things that we think I didn't need to say that to them.
Yeah.
It is probably your safe place because you say that and he's still gonna love you. He's not gonna go, whatever just because you
Yeah.
said that. But I think for us to know to really build our marriage, the fewer of those things that we say, the better marriage is gonna be.
Definitely. And I'm excited. A Better Man podcast is coming out on Thursday.
Yes.
A new episode drops every Thursday of the month. So you and Colby Taylor do this podcast. How did you meet Colby Taylor? How did this whole podcast start?
Colby was a young life leader when I first met him in Oklahoma City, and just liked him, like his passion. Met Amanda, got to know them really well over the years, and so then Colby became one of the pastors at Life Church for a while, and then now he and Amanda have their own ministry, the Engaged Life, and so I just thought he's so good. I'd love to do something with him someday, and so we did what we called a Man Week. On the podcast. We did it a couple of years, and we did it every day, and I interviewed different men, and we got such a good response. I think we need to do a regular podcast for men. And so Dr. Colby, he said, I'm all in. And so last January 2020, 2 months before COVID, we launched it. And so we've been doing it once a month since then. The first one was on narcissism. I think it was a great topic because it's got a lot of interest in it. And so we've seen it grow every month. And it's really fun to do. We have fun with it, but we also try to talk about things so a guy can walk away from it thinking that was good, that was entertaining, but I learned something. I learned something that I think is going to help me be more who God created me to be.
Yes. And then what can we expect on this month's podcast?
This month's podcast, we are talking about, I can't remember.
You're talking about truth. We're talking about truth.
Truth. Of course, we're talking about truth. Yeah. And what is truth? What does that mean? What does that mean for us in our lives? I think it's really interesting. When Colby came up, he comes up with the subject each time we gave him that. I thought, what are we going to talk about? Once we got into it, it was like, oh yeah, this is really good. So I encourage you. It drops this Thursday. And so tune in, and you can find it everywhere.
Yes, you can find it
where you listen to podcasts.
On the Awesome Marriage Podcast, or Awesome Marriage tab. Just go to the podcast, and it's right below the Awesome Marriage Podcast. And then your dispatch comes out every Thursday as well, and it's Thursday, April 8th. So this week's dispatch is everything but physical intimacy. What can we expect from this?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I put everything but because it's not going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about all kinds of physical things for a couple, but setting sex aside from that in this particular dispatch. And so I hope you'll find it interesting. I think a lot of times we think about physical and we always go to the sexual relationship. And I think God put these touch receptors all over our body, and we don't want to miss out on that too. Sex is great. We want to keep that healthy in our marriages, but what about these other things that can really bond us together physically that aren't sexual? And so that's what we talk about.
I think that's great. And I feel like in our culture today, every time you hear anything about, physical relationships, you think about sex. That's the first thing that you think about. So I think that that's really cool that you kind of went out of the box and you wrote about it. So I'm really excited to read that. And every Friday you release a vlog, and this week's vlog is the one. What can we expect to see in this week's vlog?
Yeah, I started just kind of thinking of a series, and we'll do these off and on, but the series is Truth We Believe and Lies. Truth We Doubt and Lies We Believe. And so in this one, the core of it is there really one person for each one of us when it comes to marriage, or are there many choices, and marriage is what we make out of it? And so I'm going to explore which one of those really is true.
Okay. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of people on social media lately just talking about their emotions and how we can't be good to our spouse until we're good to ourselves. Can you touch on that a little bit? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? How do you feel about that? I
probably disagree. I think it happens more and so sometimes we think, well, yeah, we just can't. If we're unhappy, we can't be good to our spouse.
Yeah.
But and I agree. The healthiest marriages is where there's two healthy people, but there are times that one or the other of you guys are going to struggle. Yeah. And so, but I think you can be a good spouse while you're struggling. You took vows for better or for worse. So that doesn't mean when you or your spouse is having a bad time, you get get to opt out for a while. So what I see is in our marriage, when one of us was struggling, it gave the opportunity for the other one to be there, to come alongside them, and to be a team. And I think what God tells us, or Paul talks a lot about in the Bible, is contentment. That in all these things that he was in, whether he was beaten or thrown in prison or out with friends, he could be content. And so I think when we go through something like that, that you want to, okay, I'm going through this, but I think if you lean into God, you learn something every time you go through something. The times I've gone through depression, it always drew me closer to God, because I mean, there was just like, there's nothing else is going to fix me but you.
Yeah.
And then God always showed up in one way or the other to help us through that. So I think when those things happen, like they happen in marriage, have hope, seek God, and as a spouse, go through it together. You will be stronger when you go through it together.
Yeah, I think that that's all great advice. And I mean, even Boone and I's first year of marriage was unfortunately during the pandemic. And so we definitely had a challenging year, but I agree with what you said. I mean, we just, turned everything over to God and just prayed and just worked through it together, and we made it out. So I agree with all of those tips.
Yeah, it's an interesting, like you guys, I mean, that your whole first year of marriage that you probably thought was going to be so different, and talk to other people. What was your first year like? Well, you guys navigated something that nobody ever done before, and did it well. And I think couples either came together and got stronger through that, or they let it push them apart. And
definitely.
you guys did a good job, because first year of marriage can be hard. Yeah.
Yes. So I know it's only Tuesday, but what was your win for the week?
Win for the week probably was Easter with family, just because it's just fun. It's just, I think we appreciate it more this year because we talked a lot. Everybody kind of mentioned, we didn't get to do this last year. We didn't do this. We didn't have an Easter egg hunt last year. All this kind of stuff that I think everybody looks forward to. And so it's been 2 years instead of 1 year. And so I think that was a win, that we're back where we could gather together as a family. And so those of us were places where you could do that. I think it just made it really special this year.
Yeah. And I personally, we went to church and then we went to lunch afterwards. And I felt like I had seen more people just out on Easter Sunday than I had seen in the last year. So I think that this was kind of everyone's first day of, hey, it's Easter. Let's get out as a family. Let's celebrate, let's be together, spend time together. And I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Nancy and I later on that evening, probably around 5, we drove around the lake that's close to us. I mean, there were families having picnics and stuff. People were everywhere. And it was like, everybody was just celebrating this. We're on the upside of this deal. So that's good.
Yes. What about your verse for the week?
The one that I thought of this week is Psalms 19, 1 and 2. The heavens proclaim the glory of the Lord. The skies display his craftsmanship. Day after day, they continue to speak. Night after night, they make him known. And God reveals himself to us in so many ways, and so just in nature and in the world outside. And, one of the things I ask couples to do when they're saying, well, what do we talk about when we have our 15 minutes tonight? Well, I said, tell each other what you saw God do in the world today. And maybe you saw, you were up early in your house and you saw a great sunrise, or maybe you just saw something in the day you thought, oh my gosh, that's God's hand at work, or you went to see and saw a new baby, or just the things. And so I think just always where he reveals himself to us in so many ways, and you don't want to miss that. You just don't want to miss it.
No, definitely not. Yeah. And I saw that all Oklahoma City schools are finally back in school.
They are.
And excited about that?
Yeah, I think everybody was. All of mine are in Edmond School District, which is North Oklahoma City, that people don't live in the city, a suburb. And I think they were all excited to get back, making new just friends, because see, they were split. So they didn't know half the kids that were in their class, because they were the AB schedule. And so now it's like, oh my gosh, we've got new people, new friends to interact with, more people to play with at lunch for the younger ones, or at, on the playground. And it's just good. My grandson, who's an 8th grader, getting ready to go into 9th grade, just like, wow, there's girls in my class I didn't know were there. So there's all this new awareness that comes with being in school more.
That's so exciting.
It's been good for everybody.
Yeah. So if you're a parent and your kids are going back to school and they're having anxiety, or they're scared, or they're a little bit nervous, do you have any advice to give them?
I think And that's not unusual. I mean, my gosh, depending on how shut in you have been as a family the past year, that could be. And if they haven't, some of the kids didn't do the AB, they would decide to go ahead and go virtual up till this time. I would pray with them. I think if you could take them up, if you haven't gone to that and meet the teacher, let them see their classroom, any of that stuff, and kind of diffuse some of that anxiety, I think is really helpful. But I think just encouraging them, talking to them about it, and then process their day with them. What was great today? Was there anything that was hard for you? And then kind of just stay in communication with them so you can help them through those things. But just when you let them out to go into school, or they leave to go to school, just pray with them. Just asking God to help them have a good day and to be calm and those kind of things.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, that is unfortunately all the time that we have for today. If you need anything from us at all, please email us at info@awesomemarriage.com. And then don't forget to follow us on social media at Awesome Marriage or at Dr. Kim Kimberling. And then if you have any questions for us, we would love to hear from you. Please just drop us a comment in the section below or send us a DM. And we hope that you have an awesome week. And thank you so much for tuning in today.
Thank you. Thanks, Lara.